When Dr. Aaron Hale finally arrived, the weariness was evident in his posture, shoulders slightly slumped, eyes heavy from long nights of restless hours and difficult conversations. He carried a thick folder full of notes, timelines, and tabs, documents that doctors prepare when families desperately seek clarity, even when certainty remains elusive. Pausing at the door, Dr. Hale studied the monitors, watching the slow rise and fall of Mark's chest and the quiet rhythm of the machines supporting a life that couldn't manage on its own at the moment. Only then did he turn to Kelly, who had remained upright for hours, resisting the urge to sleep, because surrendering felt like letting go of her vigilance. Questions without easy answers. Kelly lifted her eyes when Dr. Hale introduced himself, her smile trembling at the edges, a mask of politeness hiding her exhaustion. She thanked him for coming, but her voice, though composed, carried the weight of the questions and fears she had been holding in for days. "How is he doing?" she asked, and the question seemed to hang in the air, raw and vulnerable. Dr. Hale's response was measured, describing Mark as stable, but with an emphasis on the fragility of that stability. He explained that the medicine could monitor, support, and guide, but it could not control outcomes. When Kelly asked whether Mark would wake up soon, her voice was quiet, tentative, almost apologetic, as if she feared demanding too much from a reality already stretched thin. Navigating between hope and truth. Dr. Hale continued speaking, choosing his words carefully, as though each sentence was a step across uncertain ground. He explained that recovery happens on its own timeline. Each brain heals differently, with medicine offering guidance but no guarantees. Kelly nodded slowly, not because she found comfort in his words, but because she understood this language well, the quiet undertone of uncertainty that, over time, becomes familiar. She had lived through this kind of waiting before, recognizing the rehearsed answers and the deeper truth lying between the lines. There was something in the doctor's posture, a certain hesitation in his movements, that suggested there was more to the story, more honesty held in restraint. The human side of medicine. As the hours wore on, the conversation deepened. Dr. Hale spoke not just as a doctor, but as a person who knew the weight of responsibility that comes with every decision. He described moments when speed and caution had to coexist, when choices were made under pressure, and the unsettling realization that even the best intentions sometimes led to unpredictable outcomes. He acknowledged that some decisions carried more weight than others, not because they were wrong, but because life doesn't always follow the paths we expect. His words were soft but honest, carrying a humbling admission of the imperfections that come with the practice of medicine. He wasn't assigning blame. Instead, he offered the truth that sometimes clarity only arrives too late to bring comfort. The question that opened the room. When Kelly finally asked, "Is there anything else I should know?" her tone was calm, deliberate. It wasn't a demand for information, but an invitation for the truth to come through. Dr. Hale hesitated, his professional restraint almost palpable. After a long pause, he shared details about the early moments of Mark's care. Decisions made quickly, under the urgency of the situation, shaped by the kind of pressure that doesn't follow a neat script. There were no dramatic admissions or hidden truths, just the reality that in emergencies, even the most competent systems don't always act perfectly. Still, there was a quiet regret in his voice, a recognition of the times when things could have been clearer, could have been different, had circumstances allowed. Loving someone in the public eye. As the sun began to rise, the quiet light filtering through the room, Kelly's thoughts shifted inward. Public life often amplifies private pain, turning moments of personal uncertainty into noise, misinterpreted by the outside world. She wasn't thinking of headlines or public opinion in that moment. She was thinking of her children, of Mark, the man who had always been her steady presence. What frightened her most was not what people might say, but how easily this delicate, complex moment could be reduced to a narrative that ignored the layers of dignity, complexity, and quiet courage that existed between these walls. The quiet strength of presence. When their conversation ended, Kelly stayed exactly where she was, her gaze fixed on Mark as he breathed, the slow, steady rhythm of the machines, an odd blend of harshness and miracle. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply chose to be present. Her love, in that moment, was expressed in the stillness, a bridge to the person suspended between worlds. Dr. Hale left, carrying the weight of his own burdens, knowing that some nights stay with you long after the lights are turned off. Morning. Without resolution. When the nurses returned, adjusting monitors and speaking in hushed tones that respected the gravity of the room, the sun had fully risen. Nothing had changed outwardly, yet everything felt different. Kelly understood that this chapter wasn't going to offer clear answers or sweeping revelations. It would require endurance, honesty, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty without letting it consume her. Each moment of her presence became its own quiet act of resilience, a declaration that she would endure, even without clarity. Truth in ordinary moments. In those fragile hours, truth didn't come as a dramatic epiphany. It existed in the acknowledgement of what was real, that love does not guarantee safety, that systems are imperfect, and that even in the face of uncertainty, care and regret could coexist. Kelly remained not because she expected answers, but because presence itself was an act of resistance against fear and helplessness. Staying grounded, even without clarity, was often the bravest act. Holding on without knowing. As the day began to take shape, Kelly leaned forward and whispered Mark's name, not to wake him, but as a gentle reminder to herself that he was still there. Each breath, each small response from his body, became a marker of continuity. Even without answers, life continued. She resolved to face whatever came next, not with secrecy or grand gestures, but with patience, honesty, and a quiet refusal to let uncertainty erase the humanity of the moment. The weight of uncertainty. The minutes passed, each tick of the clock a reminder that life rarely unfolds in neat, tidy scripts. Machines hummed, monitors blinked, the slow, steady cadence of care carried on. The weight of loving someone in the public eye was undeniable. Any misstep, any oversimplified narrative, could distort the deep care and concern filling the room. Kelly clung to the small certainties she had, her presence, her attentiveness, her unwavering commitment to stay, fully and without reservation. Trust as a lifeline. In moments like these, trust became something you could feel. Trust in the medical team, in every decision they made, in the fragile rhythm of Mark's body. Kelly understood that her presence, her attention, her patience were just as vital as any medical intervention. In a world obsessed with fixing, her steadfastness was a quiet, powerful force. A reminder that love often sustains more than control ever could. When silence speaks. There were no dramatic speeches, no profound revelations, yet silence carried its own meaning. Kelly's quiet observation, her willingness to sit with discomfort and uncertainty, became a space where care, hope, and reality could coexist. Silence in this room was not absence. It was a language, one that witnessed, honored, and sustained without the need for words or spectacle. The ordinary weight of responsibility. Dr. Hale had left with his own quiet exhaustion, aware that every decision, every choice, left an imprint on those around him. Kelly, too, carried a responsibility, not grand or dramatic, but deeply profound, to remain, to witness, to love. In the intersection of human skill, imperfection, and dedication, the room became a sanctuary of trust and resilience, held together by small, quiet acts rather than grand gestures.